It is no discussion that going into 2023 that this is probably one of the most deepest, if not deepest, Kansas City Chiefs rosters we have ever had. The talent is unquestioned, but one thing we can focus on is which one of these young players can break out going into 2023. That's what we're going to discuss today. But before we do get into all of that, please be sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's have some fun. I think one of the most impressive things to watch throughout this offseason was just Brett Veach and staff putting together another roster to try to contend for a Super Bowl championship, because it's been quite impressive. Literally, the youth on this team and the talent, but most importantly, the depth. You can look in almost every single position. Now, there are some excluded, but a lot of them, it's deep as can be. And the Kansas City Chiefs always go that next man up mentality. And they are showing we're going to put more depth and talent, and we're not going to worry about it. And once it comes into December and January type of football, we're still going to be good and we're going to be hard to beat. Now, this video, I'm going to give you 5 breakout candidates that I believe will take the scene next year and not surprise a lot of people, but show their potential. Now, with that saying, I'm not going to discuss the guys like a Kadarius Toney, Isaiah Pacheco, even Justin Ross. We've heard the hype train throughout the whole offseason. I want to give hype to players who I think are well-deserved and should be recognized. So with that, let's get right into this list. Now, to kick off this list, this next player I'm going to mention, I don't feel like has got enough hype or even any hype at all. But a topic of conversation for the Kansas City Chiefs throughout this entire offseason has been the Kansas City Chiefs don't have enough weapons. Patrick Mahomes needs another guy. What is Brett Veach going to do? But there is depth in this wide receiver room. But I'm not even going to touch at that in this moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the tight end room. And we already know Travis Kelce is there. All reliable, greatest tight end of all time. But I'm looking at who is behind him. I am looking at Noah Gray. And Noah Gray last year, he capped the year off quietly productive and very impressive. You can see he was growing and molding into his own, and he was looking like he could become a reliable target in this offense. And then reports coming out of OTAs is saying he is looking very, very good. Like I mentioned, Chiefs Kingdom throughout this whole offseason has been, we don't have a wide receiver number one. Kadarius Toney is injury prone. You got Skyy Moore, who we don't even know can be a wide receiver. Is there anyone reliable? What are we going to do? The depth and talent is there, but also you can get it whichever way you want it. And I think that has been proven in Andy Reid's offense. Time in and time out. A running back can be productive in the receiving game. Receivers can be productive in the screen running games. Tight ends, they can go berserk in the receiving game. And I think Noah Gray is going to have a year to where it's not going to be anything like 700 to 1,000 yards. Last year, he almost had 300. Let's say maybe can he get close to 500 to 600 yards and be that guy to where it's like, okay, we might have our tight end of the future. Now, I'm not writing off Travis Kelce by any stretch of the imagination. Travis Kelce can go for another 10 years for all I know. He does not look like he's slowing down whatsoever. But with Chiefs Kingdom and when you plan for the future, you got 2 guys who have the talent with Jody Fortson and Noah Gray. And I'm a big Jody Fortson guy as well. Just with Jody Fortson, it's like he's got all the talent in the world, but it's hard for him to stay healthy. And I believe it would be a great battle at tight end too between both of them. But what I saw last year from Noah Gray, and now what I'm hearing from coming out of camp, I don't know. I think going into next year, he can have his breakout season to where a lot of people are going to be mentioning his name. And when it comes to Sundays, he's going to be a receiver, tight end that you will have to game plan for. Now, these next players that we're going to focus on is going to be on the defensive side of the ball. And I think what the Kansas City Chiefs can do this year that they haven't done in the Patrick Mahomes era is have a great defense. And when I mean great defense, a top 10 defense. And if you can get Patrick Mahomes a top 10 defense, if you thought this team was hard to beat, they going to be damn near unstoppable. And a guy that can contribute early on into this for next year is the recently acquired pass rusher from the San Francisco 49ers, Charles Omenihu. Yes, that's a name a lot of people haven't mentioned. They just look at him as a free agent acquisition, but also I think it's someone who has been kind of pushed under the rug a little bit because all you hear throughout the offseason is the Kansas City Chiefs need to add pass rushers. They signed Charles Omenihu. And then comes draft. The Kansas City Chiefs need to add pass rushers. They draft Felix Anudike-Uzomah, and then they draft B.J. Thompson. And then that is still the number one need. And I get it. You can never have too much. But the thing I want to zone in on Charles Omenihu is he knows how to play throughout the whole entire line, whether it be defensive tackle, D-end, get after the quarterback, get after the running back. That is what he does. Now, the thing that gets me more intrigued with Charles Omenihu more than anything is if you look at his numbers, he's been in the league 4 years and nothing really too eye-popping catches you. Last year, he had 4.5 sacks. But the Kansas City Chiefs paid him good money. They didn't pay him rotational pass rusher type of money. Coach Spags and Joe Colin see something in Omenihu that a lot of us don't. And I really believe they are going to unleash him next year to where he's going to put up some good numbers. Now, will it be double-digit numbers? I don't know if I want to go that far, but there's a part of me that does. I think he can have an 8+ sack season, which I think is huge. Definitely for a guy who is replacing Frank Clark, which Frank Clark was already averaging just 5 to 6 sacks a season. If Omenihu can come in right away and get 8+ sacks, that can be tremendous in your first year. Now, Chiefs Kingdom's going to be watching this video and say, interesting that you chose Charles Omenihu instead of George Karlaftis. And there's a reasoning behind that. I really do think George Karlaftis can break out. Honestly, I think George Karlaftis can have more sacks than Omenihu. I really believe Karlaftis can be a double-digit type of sack player next year. The reason I wanted to focus in on Omenihu is because I don't feel like a lot of people are, and I feel like he's a special talent. I think the only thing that can derail Omenihu next year is basically the legal and policy conduct NFL thing that he may have going on, because he did have a situation earlier in the year, and if the commissioner decides to suspend him for a couple games, that may derail the beginning of his year. But we don't know any of that. Right now, I'm just going off of if Omenihu was out there for 17 games, I think he can have a really impressive year next year. Another player on the defensive side of the ball that is a fan favorite, that is their hype man, that is the cheerleader for the defense and the offense and just goes berserk and you just love the attitude, is Willie Gay Jr. Now, a lot of people, when they focus on Willie Gay Jr., will be like, breakout season? Well, he's kind of made a name for himself. And I'm going to pause you there because has he? Now, we know the athletic traits he has. We know what he can do in this league. But the productivity, does it live up to what we expect? I'm indifferent there with you a little bit. And there's been things to derail that. Last year was an early season suspension and then injuries. And that happened the year before as well, too. We know how Willie Gay plays the game. It's fast. It can be reckless. And that can lead to injuries. But at the end of the day, I'm going back to what Willie Gay said last year. He holds himself to high expectations. I remember, I think it was an early training camp press conference where he said he wanted to lead the league in interceptions. I think either at the linebacker position or the league. At the end of the day, that is high goals. And that's something you like to hear. And also, at the linebacker position, if Willie Gay wants to lead the league in interceptions, he's got that kind of athletic ability that who am I to doubt the dude? I think also what's huge in this, it's a contract year. And it's bittersweet because Willie Gay can be that type of player that Juan Thornhill was last year, where you know the writing can be on the wall. It can be his last year as a Kansas City Chief, and he can just lay it all on the line. Now, I do hope the Kansas City Chiefs can re-sign him, and I hope Willie Gay does ball out. But if you look at the linebacking room and whole, you already know the leader of that core is Nick Bolton. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to lock that up. But what the Chiefs did this offseason made it very, very interesting to where it's going to be between Drew Tranquill and Willie Gay. Both guys on their final year. Drew Tranquill signed a 1-year deal, so that's how I'm going to look at it. Basically fighting for that spot too, and I believe it's going to be Spags, Coach Reed watching them, and whoever has the better year or fits in the scheme is going to get that multi-year extension with this defense moving forward. I'm excited to see Drew Tranquill too. I'm excited to see Leo Chanel. I told you, the depth on this defense is absurd, and the linebacking core is no different. But if Willie Gay can stay healthy, he can be a menace on this defense. He provides traits that Nick Bolton doesn't. It's like they're cohesive with each other. Nick Bolton and Willie Gay, they're different, but it's perfect for this defense, and you just love it. Nick Bolton is that thumper. He will slam the running back down, the quarterback down, and Willie Gay, he'll chase you down. He'll make a play. He'll run from one side of the field to the next. He'll get interceptions. He'll force fumbles. He'll do whatever he needs to do. And I'm excited to see that take place next year because he's someone who we've heard his name hyped up a lot, but I don't feel has lived to the billing. And I feel next year will be a different story, and I feel Willie Gay is in for a huge year. My final guy I'm going to talk about on this defense is going to be a guy who could be a potential leader. I know when a lot of us focus on leaders, we zone in on guys like Chris Jones and Nick Bolton. But when you look into that secondary, I'm looking at Justin Reed. Now, when you hear breakout candidates and when you talk the secondary, some popular names like Trent McDuffie and Brian Cook have been coming out for breakout season candidates. And Trent McDuffie, I don't really want to put him in this kind of video because at the end of the day, he proved a lot in his rookie year. Like, he's shown he can be an elite cornerback. I think the next discussion is not breakout, it's can he be a top 5 cornerback in this league? And we will definitely have a conversation on this channel about that. And Brian Cook, I went in different directions for the same way I went with Charles Omenihu and George Karlaftis, because Brian Cook, his name has been getting hyped up there, and that a lot of Chiefs Kingdom is expecting big things from him. You don't hear much about Justin Reed, whether it be because they feel he's already made the scene, kind of like what I discussed with Willie Gay. And that may be true, but also, I don't feel like he's lived to the billing as well. Now, let's discuss that a little bit, because Justin Reed coming into last year, it took a lot of time to learn the playbook, and you could see he had his ups and downs to start the season. But once it came to December football, you saw the potential Justin Reed can bring to this defense, and you saw what kind of thumper he can be, the athleticism that showed, and also the leadership that came. And I think going into this offseason and into OTAs and into 2023 is going to be huge and is only going to be a new step and also something to improve on as well. I think Justin Reed can be one of those safeties to where, one, safeties don't get, I don't want to say the praise that they deserve, because I think Justin Reed, and this may be a hot take, can be a top 10 safety in this league. The athletic traits are there. The kind of presence he can bring to this team is there. He's a thumper. The thing that I would love to see change is, can he create turnovers, whether it be forced fumbles or a knack for getting interception? He had 7 pass breakups last year. I want to see that increase as well, and I believe it will. The great reports coming out of camp is Justin Reed looks like he's in the best shape of his life. He put on weight, but it looks like he's basically a bigger safety out there that is just ready to cause havoc, and I love to see it. Justin Reed isn't the type of safety where, I don't know, like Ed Reed type of thing, where he's going to get like Ed Reed, Charles Woodson when he became a safety, where he's going to get 8 to 10 interceptions. Now, I could be wrong, and I would love it, but also I want to see him, like I mentioned, get those interceptions up, but man, be a force. Lay receivers out, lay tight ends out, get after the running backs and get after the safety. And also, I believe that's what Spags will do as well is, hey, get him all over the field now. Last year was basically the learning curve year. Year 2, it's time to take over and show him what you're about. I'm excited to see Brian Cook in year 2, but remember, Justin Reed's in year 2 as well. And I think that's going to be something that's going to help this defense out a lot. And also, he's 25 years old, which is crazy to think. Literally, 25 years old and already played 5 years in this league. That's absurd. The dude has a lot of football left in him, and he's got a lot of growth too. And I think that's huge. Definitely under Spag's scheme, I'm excited to see what kind of player Justin Reed turns out to be, and I think it's going to be a great safety in this league. I could not end this video out without talking about my favorite offensive player who I feel like has not got enough hype this offseason. Like I mentioned, everyone's been hyping up Justin Ross, Kadarius Toney, but at the end of the day, I feel like Skyy Moore could have the best wide receiver production next year. Skyy Moore is a receiver who I absolutely love. I probably have the biggest man crush on him. I think he will go over 1,000 yards next year. I think he's going to be that type of receiver where Mahomes is going to build that trust and rely on him a lot. Whether it be in the slot, he can play some outside too. Everyone likes to compare his game to Julian Edelman. If you even look at it in that kind of aspect as well, if Skyy Moore can become that wide receiver that you can depend on to have 6 to 8 catches a game, that is clutch. Yes, he had his struggles early on in his rookie year, but he showed huge promise. Now, take away the punt returns because we're not even going to focus on that. Focus on Skyy Moore as a receiver. He showed that he can be really good in this league just off of one game, and that was against the Chargers where he was cooking Derwin James, one of the best safeties in the league. If he's doing that to Derwin James, best believe he has worked this offseason. He's going to work this training camp and preseason the show. Hey, I'm going to be legit in this league. I think the number one question, and I think it has probably already been resolved, is get that communication, get that trust with Mahomes, and if you have that, you could be something special in this league. And I really believe Skyy Moore is going to hit the ground running and shock a lot of people where you're going to hear probably by the time, week 6 through week 8, people are going to be like, where does Skyy Moore come from? Someone who didn't have a great rookie year and now just hits the ground running, and we're like, whoa, he's doing really well. To where it's going to be like, oh, you could just plug any wide receiver in a Coach Reed offense or with Mahomes and they're going to do good. No, he is talented, and I believe he's going to show it. With that, Chiefs Kingdom, I'm going to close this video off. This is going to be a good topic of conversation because you can literally name anyone on this roster to break out. Like, there is so many players to discuss. So, dive in the comments below. Let me know some of your breakout players going into 2023. And with that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you did like this video, please leave that big thumbs up. Y'all take care. Peace.